I'm sure at some point we have all heard the phrase, do not bring a knife to a gunfight. What we need to be saying is do not bring your ego to a knife fight, or any fight for that matter. In fact, just leave your ego inside and keep it in check, because when you get your ego involved, things never really seem to work out for you. For today's video, we are going to break down the footage that was released of this knife attack. However, we are not going to show the point at which the person was in fact stabbed and unfortunately dies on scene in this situation. Just understand that he was stabbed in the neck and bleeds out incredibly quickly. And again, according to the news reports, he was pronounced dead on the scene. What we are going to focus on is how that whole thing could have easily been prevented had he not brought his ego to the fight to begin with, amongst other things. So let's kind of just dive right into this. Now, as it goes with most of these situations, the filming typically does not start when the fight starts because people don't realize what's going on, and so by the time they actually get their cameras recording, the fight has already started, which is exactly what happens in this particular case. So we do not know what initially caused this, but I will give you my assumption simply based off of what we're seeing here. It appears as if there was some sort of disagreement, altercation, maybe strikes were thrown, maybe people just shoved each other. Either which way, words were definitely said that pissed off both groups. Now, the group that has the knife is in fact backing up the entire video, which means that they are already on the defensive. Now, I don't know, again, if they pulled out the knife right away or if things started to get physical and they realized they were outnumbered, so the guy pulls out the knife, hoping to just end the fight, have everyone walk away, and they can get away safely. Now, you're also going to see that they continue to face the A group the entire time, probably because they assume that as soon as they turn their backs, they're just pretty much going to sprint after them and jump them from behind. Before we watch this video, I just want to say this. The problem with most street fights that also includes egos is that things get escalated more than they're supposed to be. And what a lot of people don't understand is that when you bring your ego to a fight, any fight, especially one that has a weapon, you're just asking for things to go south. And you're escalating things more than they need to be. I understand that in this video, the guy pulled out a knife, but I also understand that he's walking backwards and walking away from the situation, and the other group continues to just pressure on, and continue walking, continue shouting things, and they just don't back off. So again, in my eyes, you are bringing your ego to a situation that already involves a weapon. People are already heated, and you're only making things worse by not allowing that group to just walk away and just end the situation as a whole. By continuously pressuring on, you're just asking for things to go pretty much just in a terrible, terrible direction as it happens in this case. So nonetheless, let's get into the video. This guy here is the one that, this is ego number one, and he just is the one that's continuously pressured on. He's constantly in the guy's face, the one with the knife, and I'm honestly surprised that he does not get stabbed in this video because of just how ignorant he is and how close he is to this situation the entire time, and again, constantly just pressuring on. So again, you'll see him egging on like he's doing a couple like, what, and you'll see him kind of throwing punches later. This guy is ego number two. And unfortunately, ego number two is the one that does pass away later in this video. And you can see here, first of all, here's the guy with a knife, and you can see he's got the knife in hand, right? This motherfucker walks up, hands down, chest out, 100% ego thriving, all right? Not a care in the world. And this is not a far distance. This is incredibly close, which means that your time to react, especially if you're untrained, is minimal. And I mean, like, you're not going to be able to react. Period. You're like, whatever this guy wants to do is going to happen. So he walks up, and you can see again, like the guy's pointing the knife, and at this point, they actually speed up and walk backwards even faster. Like they're almost trying to just run backwards. These two guys don't really do much. They, I guess, are just with him by association. And so like they're just trying to get out of there as well. But they're like, the whole group is really only focused on the guy with the knife, and they don't really care about these other two whatsoever. So you'll see them continuously backing off. Now those guys will turn and start walking away. However, this guy stands, at some point, just kind of stops and stands his ground. So again, it's not that he's asking to fight. It's not that at this point he's becoming the aggressor. I think he's come to the realization that he's not walking away from this situation. That no matter how much he tries, he's pulled out a weapon. He's clearly shown that he's not wanting to fight by backing off, yet they continue to pressure on. So I think at this point he's made the acceptance of, I'm going to be getting into a fight at this situation. Like, it's going to happen now. So I think now, at this point, he's just kind of staying prepared and ready for what's going to come. You're going to get ego number 1 to rush back up on him. Just like I said, now again, just like this guy's buddies, these two don't really do much until after the actual stabbing takes place. But he immediately starts getting real close now. And again, this is where I'm surprised he does not get stabbed. So like he has quick reflexes, but he has zero training, and he has no idea how to deal with a knife altercation to begin with, which again, this is what I'm talking about when you bring your ego. Like, you're escalating things. And the fact that he was able to walk away, or at least in this footage, he was able to walk away unscathed is mesmerizing. I'm amazed because he came very close. So you'll see him again, like, doing the what? And just, I don't know why people do that in fights. Like, I don't know what the point of, like, doing this is, because you're just asking to get knocked out. But what do I know? I don't really try to get into fights to begin with. But anyway, so, like, that right there was an incredibly close jab. Like, he leaned back in just the amount of perfect time, all right? But let's move on to the more important aspect here. Now we're at the point where things get serious and things take a bad turn. And again, this is why I emphasize to not bring your ego to a fight, because this situation, which could have easily been avoided, maybe not avoided, but it easily could have finished. It easily could have just been, again, people walking their own separate ways and just keeping their egos in check. But nope, they got to prove a point. So again, this guy's now going to start really putting on the pressure with the knife and start trying, like, it looks like he's just trying to throw and land a good punch and hope that if he lands a good punch, the guy's going to drop a knife and they can just beat the shit out of him. Unfortunately, that's not the case. However, he is not the one that gets stabbed, and honestly, I'm amazed that he does not get stabbed in this situation, because again, he does not appear to have much training at all, especially with dealing with knives. But either way, let's kind of just watch it. So you're going to see him again start throwing punches, start throwing jabs, and just kind of getting physical and getting in the guy's face. What I want you to pay attention to now is right here. Mr. Ego number 2 is back. And once again, he's got his hands down. Now, unfortunately, you are about to see the point at which he does get stabbed. And again, I'm not surprised that he gets stabbed in this situation because of how he is approaching this moment to begin with. 100% ego. 100% ego driven. Only trying to prove a point. That's it. He is merely here with the goal to pretty much prove to everyone that he's the tough guy, that he's going to knock your ass out, that he's going to beat you up, and there's nothing you can do about it. And he doesn't give a shit if you have a knife. That is not the way to approach any fight to begin with. Whether or not a weapon is involved, do not approach a fight like you are the top dog. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what the other person knows or doesn't know, or what they're carrying or not carrying. So you have to approach every situation cautiously. There's a difference of being confident in your skills and having an ego. Having an ego does not win fights. In fact, it hinders your ability to fight smart and correctly and methodically. Confidence and understanding your limits allows you to, and pretty much having like good ties with your emotions allows you to walk away when you know you should just walk away. And people that typically fight or train how to fight on a regular basis understand that you don't have to prove a point. You can walk away. There's no shame in just walking away if that means you get to live another day, or that you don't get a broken bone or a concussion. Because although he got stabbed, maybe this was a situation that maybe he just gets punched really hard and he falls down and he cracks his head open and dies that way. Or maybe he gets knocked out and gets kicked in the face, and then everyone else kind of starts jumping in and kicking and punching him on the ground while he's defenseless. Like, there's multitude of other variations of this situation that it could have gone. But because the guy had a knife, there's really only one way that it's going to result in, and that's someone's getting stabbed. You're going to see the guy walk up. Now, right here, you can see that he kind of like did the post to clear the distance, or like keep the guy at bay so that he could get the knife ready, and then he stabs him, and unfortunately he nicks him in the artery, which causes this guy to bleed out. Now, let's kind of just touch on a couple things of that whole situation as a whole. One, fights are not to be taken lightly. Doesn't matter if it's a school fight, locker room fight, hallway fight. Doesn't matter if it's like a fighting at a sporting event. Like, just fights in general should be avoided as much as possible. And I understand if you're like the bad guy and you're going out there just causing problems, like you're just going to do that. But for like everyone else that's actually trying to keep themselves safe and protect themselves and protect their loved ones, avoid those types of situations at all costs. If that means that you have to look like a coward, but you get to live, who gives a shit? Walk away. There's no need to prove anything to anybody when it comes to real situations. Even like professional fighters, egos get you in trouble because you start fighting stupidly. and you just don't think clearly about what's going on, because again, you just have it in your head that you have to be the tough one, or you're trying to prove a point, or you go past the point where you know you should have thrown in the towel, and you just keep going and going and going to prove a point, and in fact you just make things worse and you get more hurt out of the situation. Like, egos have to be checked when it comes to fighting. And again, it's different from your emotions. If you're in street fights, if you're in real life altercations, like, you should be in tune enough with your emotions to know when to engage and when to not engage. If I'm fighting for my life, if I'm fighting for the life of my loved ones, that is a different story. I'm going to do what I can to protect myself and protect my loved ones if I have to. If I don't have to, I'm not going to, because I don't have anything to prove. I know I can fight. I train on a regular basis. That does not mean that I'm going to win every fight that I'm going to be in, nor does that mean that I want to test myself in any situation I possibly can, because I don't know what the other person knows, just like they don't know what I know. I have no idea what they're carrying. I have no idea what they're capable of. I have no idea what they're on or what their mentality is like. So you could go into a situation thinking that you're hot stuff, and all of a sudden you got a crazy ass person on the other end that feels no pain, that maybe took some fighting classes and is incredibly aggressive and is carrying weapons and just goes nuts on you. Like, you don't know the type of situations that you're getting yourself into. So if you have an opportunity to walk away, simply just walk away. And again, we don't know what caused the initial situation to unfold to begin with. But I will say that it could have, like, this could have ended completely differently if both parties were just like, screw it, let's just walk away. Like, I'm trying to imagine what was said that was so hurtful that you had the pressure on and on and on and on until one of your buddies died. Because that ego, that mentality, cost that man his life in less than 30 seconds. Now, the entire footage is 47 seconds, with the first 15 to 20 seconds taking place before the stabbing, which means that once the guy was stabbed, it was less than 30 seconds before he bled out. So, like, what type of insult or situation is worth your life, especially in that short of a time frame, when easily you could have just put your ego away, kept it in check, and walked away? So understand this, my friends. Egos do not belong in the ring. Egos do not belong in the cage. Egos do not belong in fighting to begin with. It is not worth it. And if you need to get your ego in check, then you should focus on that before you're trying to focus on proving a point. And if you're in a situation where people are in fact like walking away and trying to get out of the situation, do not pursue them. Because not only are you putting yourself at risk, you are also making yourself the aggressor. And even if you were the one defending yourself to begin with, if you are now pursuing somebody, you are now, from the eyes of everybody else, being the aggressor, being the attacker, being the like the initiator and everything. So just avoid that. Avoid all trouble as much as possible. This kind of, folds into a lot of different areas of being able to see fights before they happen, which means you understand how to read body language. You understand like the preemptive signs and, changes in tone, changes in dialogue, changes in body language, changes in behavior. Like, you're able to kind of see those things to understand, like, oh, we're about to get into a scuffle here. I should probably just back off. And get out of the situation before things get worse. Like, that type of training needs to be discussed more often, because that could save a lot of people from having to even worry about their egos to begin with. So don't bring your ego to a fight, my friends. And if you are going to engage in a fight, keep your hands up. Don't ever just walk up to a guy with your hands down, chest pumped out, especially, again, like in this situation where someone is, in fact, holding a clearly visible weapon, and you're just going to walk up with your hands down. So, like I said at the beginning, I don't believe it was a knife that killed this guy. Yes, the knife may have made the killing strike, but it was his ego that put him in the situation and put him within range of the knife to begin with. So check your ego at the door, my friends. Don't bring your ego into fights, and just don't fight in general. And hopefully you can stay safe to live another day. If you did enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, as it does help with the algorithm, which means more people get to see the channel, which ultimately helps the channel grow. Otherwise, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and we'll see you next time.